This video is brought to you by Incogni. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire upper echelon community. Everybody already knows that the crypto industry is, largely speaking, corrupt. I don't really feel like anyone reputable even disputes that fact, at least not anymore. But rarely do we ever see such a stone-cold, blatant example of corruption and insider trading than what happened on October 10th of 2025. Let me explain. Crypto is dominated overwhelmingly by whales. Large accounts executing profitable trades and manipulating the markets to the tune of billions. This is a well-known fact. But what happened on October 10th is unprecedented. Following a social media post by President Trump at precisely 4:50 p.m. Eastern Time, which is important, following a social media post about new tariffs being imposed on China, not only did the traditional stock market take a hit, actually the regular stock market took a hit after this post right here, in which he said, quote, "One of the policies that we are calculating at this moment is a massive increase of tariffs on Chinese products coming into the United States of America," end quote, which happened at 10:57 a.m., as in right here, before the market dumped. But later on, at 4:50 precisely, he said this, quote, "Starting November 1st, 2025, or sooner, depending on any further actions or changes taken by China, the United States of America will impose a tariff of 100% on China over and above any tariff that they are currently paying. Also on November 1st, we will impose export controls on any and all critical software," end quote. Honestly, he's been threatening things like this constantly during the administration. I don't think anyone is actually surprised by this. But one thing to consider is timing. At 4:50 p.m. Eastern on a Friday, of all days, the New York Stock Exchange is closed. But the crypto market is always open. And following this announcement of further tariffs, enormous ones as well, on top of export controls on critical software, the crypto market basically fell apart. It's called a flash crash is the technical term, where rapid decreases in token prices trigger liquidations and subsequent forced selling afterward, which compounds the problem in a downward spiral. Algorithmic trading is a very delicate thing lately. When the cycle starts, it can be difficult to stop. And it certainly didn't help that major exchanges like Binance and Coinbase encountered service errors during the peak of these problems. Some of them so bad that they'll be compensating their customers as a result. But all things together, it was a pretty big and very fast crash. Bitcoin, which had already been struggling throughout the day as a result of the president's first tweet, or post on Truth Social or whatever, fell off a cliff after the second one, okay? Right over the edge, losing over $10,000 of value in seconds, literal seconds. Altcoins, many of them in the top 100, lost even more, sometimes approaching 70% losses on token value in a hurricane of panic selling. The worst ones basically zeroed out briefly, and liquidation pressure was mounting all over the place. It's difficult to get an exact figure on this, but current estimates are that some $19+ billion were lost in total or liquidated, with hundreds of prominent traders getting zeroed out completely. I don't necessarily have a whole lot of sympathy for the crypto traders using hefty amounts of leverage who ultimately got burned by this, but I think it's important to accurately discuss the fact that many, many billions of dollars were vaporized in a heartbeat, and that has tangible real-world consequences. Ukrainian investor Konstantin Galish was found dead in his Lamborghini shortly after the crash, in what many are speculating as an apparent suicide as a direct result. He allegedly lost tens of millions of dollars, money that didn't actually belong to him, and had no way to pay it back. But regardless of the high-profile media attention that this specific case is receiving, the stone-cold reality is that when a move like this happens, a dramatic and quick move like this with all these liquidations, a lot of people lose everything. But a handful of others, in this case I would assert them to be insiders, almost certainly, they make millions. Before going further, data tracking is currently at an all-time high and only ever increases with time. Everything you do online is tracked. Companies keep and sell your information. Data is the new gold, as they say. But Incogni, today's video sponsor, is there for anyone who wants to cut back on the number of places where your data is stored, sold, and displayed, which can result in all sorts of problems like scams, theft of identity, harassment, data breaches, etc. It's a very simple process. Sign up for the website, give them legal permission to work on your behalf, and then let them know what they'll be having removed. After that, they contact data brokers, of which there are hundreds, and they do it. Additionally, at the core of the service now, they have an important feature. Everyone's probably Googled their names before, but when you do and you find your information on a website where it shouldn't be, you can submit that URL to Incogni, and they'll attempt to get the info taken down for you. This is certainly possible to attempt individually. Basically, you contact the legal departments for all the different companies and then fight objections along the way, but successfully pressuring them into taking things down can be a near impossible task on your own, and it's also time intensive. Incogni now offers you the option of finding where your information is displayed and then submitting the link to them, after which they execute the tedious process with all of their streamlined resources to force results, which means less ability for the people you don't want finding you to actually find you. Using the link down below in the description and code Echelon at checkout, you can get 60% off an annual subscription to Incogni. Again, link down below and promo code Echelon for 60% off your subscription. Big thank you to Incogni for continuing to sponsor the channel. Okay, back to it. Pinpoint accuracy on timeline here is what really matters the most, because the entire crash is a direct result of Donald Trump posting on Truth Social, okay? That's it. That's not to say that some other factor wouldn't have caused a crash in the future, right, of similar magnitude. The crypto industry was massively over-leveraged to a degree where it was almost begging for an incident like this to transpire. But we only have the cards that were dealt. It's not really useful to speculate what else may have caused a crash in the future. Well, remember the timing, 4:50 p.m. Eastern? Yeah, quickly discovered by social media users and verified so far by forensic experts who are still digging through the aftermath. It turns out that multiple traders had not just made profit from this move, they had made nearly $100 million each of highly leveraged and practically immediate profits, down to the second, in tandem with the president's announcement. This account right here, if we go back in the recently filled orders as far as we can, this account, which was opened less than 24 hours before the crash took place in the lead up to the president's 4:50 p.m. social media post, was opening massive leveraged short positions against Bitcoin down to the literal second that the post went live. Look at this. 447, 448, orders are filling and filling, tens of millions of dollars flowing in and flowing in, keeps going into 449. Even the final short position order itself filled at the exact same time as the president posted. This account was funded with $80 million just 4 hours before that. And then as soon as the post came out, the account stops immediately. The short positions that they opened become massively and immediately profitable, and this trader closes out with a near $100 million gain. I'm sorry, I was actually wrong about this, real quick, breaking script and putting the paragraph in after. It's not that the account was funded 4 hours before the post, it's that the account was funded 24 plus 4 hours. So you can't even make the argument that they saw the first post in the AM and said, oh, well, there's going to be tariffs and had some kind of stroke of genius. They did this. They initiated this play from scratch before the president ever said a single thing, before the public knew anything about incoming tariffs of any kind. And they basically had the foresight to set this whole thing up and then pinpoint accuracy within the second, do it right down to the president's post. Okay, so I was wrong about a detail there, and it makes it so much worse when you actually look at what the reality is. It's insane. They began cashing out $10 million at a time after not just predicting, but opening a mind-blowingly risky trade with absolute precision. Like, you could not have been more perfect. Like, the only explanation that I see is that they literally knew when the president was going to post. That's the only way that any of this makes sense, down to the second. And they weren't the only ones. Other traders opened multi-$100 million positions in Ethereum, with an untold number of what I would call exceptionally clear insiders benefiting directly from the president's activity. But the pattern of tariff and subsequent suspect stock sales, this is not a brand new thing, okay? Perhaps the most prolific example historically that we can look at would be Liberation Day, where the president unveiled sweeping tariffs and sent the entire global market kind of on a roller coaster ride. What if I said that this didn't happen in a vacuum? What if I said that Pam Bondi, Trump's attorney general, sold millions of stock on the same day that the tariffs were announced? What if I said that the acting general counsel for the White House, as in the White House's lawyer, sold shares in a dozen different companies directly before the market chaos, but he purchased, he didn't just sell, he purchased shares of Palantir, which is also coincidentally shortly before Palantir got a massive government contract. How about Gautam Rana, United States ambassador to Slovakia of all places, who likely sold millions in stock right before the automotive tariffs and the Liberation Day tariffs? I can keep going, by the way. Sean Duffy, transportation secretary, he sold shares of like 3 dozen different companies a couple days before Trump started whining about reciprocal tariffs, even though his tariff structure is based on trade deficit, which is brain dead. Stephanie Siptak Ramnath, same deal, selling within 2 days of Liberation Day. And the list is practically infinite. If you look at each individual case of tariff announcements, no matter which one you choose, there are politicians, friendly politicians to the administration, who are making millions selling directly before or purchasing things that go up directly after. Loyalists, so it would seem, in my opinion, are consistently able to beat the market as a direct result of the president's social media and public policy behavior. Crypto is a rigged casino, that much we know. well and truly beyond the standard level of corruption that we see in traditional markets. But when central exchanges stop processing orders for retail investors right in the middle of a crash that came as a direct result of the president's social media ravings, which were predicted to the very second by unknown mega rich traders who come away with tens or hundreds of millions afterward, there needs to be a large, ongoing, and very comprehensive investigation into this. Except there probably won't be. Again, I don't have a massive degree of sympathy for people that trade on margin and overextend themselves. It comes with the territory. Ongoing risk is tremendous, obviously, but when the entire space experiences what seems to be a coordinated liquidity crunch off the back of a presidential tirade, which results in specific, anonymous, and almost clairvoyant traders making off with the life savings of untold thousands or tens of thousands of people, I don't look at that situation and think, haha, LOL, just another day in the markets. No, no, no. I see that and think, my God, the pattern of insiders benefiting from erratic behavior is now so obvious that they're doing it right down to the literal second. As the dust settles and they sift through all the rubble, I want to make a prediction right now, okay? We can circle back to this later on. My prediction is that we've only barely seen the tip of the iceberg on this flash crash. The Bitcoin whale, the Ethereum shorts, those are like cockroaches in the basement. You see one, but there's 55 more that you don't see because they're hiding in the walls and the floor and under the boxes. This crash likely claimed multiple lives and stole the future from a massive number of people who were tricked into the usage of leverage that they couldn't afford by the overly optimistic and predatory financial sector, which has now completely wiped out the retail crypto space across potentially hundreds of tokens. At first, honestly, I was looking at this in a really sort of jaded way. Whatever, another crash. But the more I learned and the more I saw, this was a very suspect chain of events that further emphasizes the fact that high-level white-collar crime appears to be the new normal in America. Obviously, the aftermath remains to be seen. Some people speculate that a large industry player is already dead or bankrupt, limping in the background. Other people speculate that this would be the start of the next hype wave, which I really don't think is going to happen. I really hope it doesn't happen. That would never end well. And I've seen every single theory in between as well. But my hope is that some level of accountability gets doled out to those who knew something and traded on insider information before that was public, because it really feels like that happened here, with just openly egregious levels of brazen carelessness. I don't think that this is the dawn of a brave new crypto hype wave. I think millions of people just saw what happens when the insiders make a play on the floor of a rigged casino, openly, and they practically brag about it at this stage. And it really doesn't taste good, right? They're not coming away like, wow, please, sir, may I have some more? Somehow I doubt that the people burned by this are thinking, oh, cool, let me throw more capital into these awesome, great, technologically sound markets. Or, I don't know, that the people who didn't know much about this, they see everything that happened and think, oh my God, what a great entry point for the industry. They're thinking, get me out of this hellhole because that was completely unfair. And they're right to think that. Anyway, I'm going to keep looking in the background. This is more of just a stream of consciousness thing, more so than like a structured investigation. But there is plenty to find, I hope. I doubt I'm going to be the one to find it, right? I don't know who these people are. I doubt I'm going to be able to learn who they are or whatever they actually knew, if anything. But hey, you never know. And if you do want to like say something or reach out to me, anyone watching this, you can contact me through the upperechelon.gg website or Discord or any number of other locations if you want to have a chat. As always, links down below to support the channel, the video's sponsor, of course, locals and Patreon, channel memberships, etc., etc. Thank you all for watching. Question everything, and have a nice night.